Alright, welcome back. This is MDog, and we're going to try to get some audio this time. Hopefully it's working. I've recorded this video a little while ago and then discovered that went through the whole thing with no audio, apparently. So I've since deleted that, and we're going to try to re-record this. Right now what we're doing, we're sort of doing the opposite order that I did things in the last video. So in the overnight hours, what I've been doing is either jigging anchored down in a spot from the boat for catfish, or drifting for catfish. And so we're starting with this. This is the smaller of the two setups. This is a light casting rod with a low profile bait casting reel. We've got 6.4 on the leader. So if we hook into anything too big on this Texas rig, obviously it could be a little painful. And then over here on this side, we have a little larger setup, 9.8, with a large 2 hook, and this is a straight jigging rig. Again, with the quicker lure, and just in time we've gotten a bite on this. And this is perfect because these are the main two fish that you're likely to see while jigging overnight hours here: the catfish and the burbot. And then what I have been doing is, so this is where we are on the map. I do recommend when you're drifting to start down here in the 11-meter hole. A lot of catfish coming out down here. And then during the day we're going to be float fishing, and we're basically just going to drift all the way to the end of this river and then float fish from there, which seems to work pretty well. But this is our third setup, and I was just noticing we actually test-wise need a heavier bullet, which we have now. And so I have been sort of casting this out to just to have a third in the water. The bite rate is slow enough that having 3 rods out makes sense. In fact, if you want to kind of increase your bite rate even during the night, you could just put a wacky rig in on your third rod. It might be worth doing that. Again, if the jigging or trying to catch the catfish is going relatively slow. But we're getting a nice mix of burbot and catfish doing this. And really, throughout this whole day cycle that I'm going to show you, we're not going to make this a long video, but I'm going to basically, once I show you what I'm doing during the daytime hours, you'll sort of have you'll have the information for what's kind of working for 24 hours straight. And the whole reason why I'm doing this is mostly to level up float fishing, but the silver during the night catching these catfish is just it's so good that since float fishing isn't as active at night, it's kind of worth sort of targeting them during the evening hours. And now that it's almost 5 a.m., I think we go ahead and start getting set up here, or start moving in that direction. And we're actually going to use a match rod, and I will talk about why that is here momentarily. But this is the other thing I would say. If you don't like drifting or don't feel like drifting, I think another like legitimately good option is to let's see, where's the hole? Like right through here. Okay, is to just stand in the boat, and then like somewhere between 20-25 reel speeds, what I found that I've liked the most, and then just jig step it back. So then you just, at the place where we're going to float fish, or wherever you decide to float fish, you literally could just not move the boat at all, but really just stay in the same place. Are we at the end here? Yeah, so let's go ahead and do this real quick. Let's drop the anchor. Let's see what fish this is, and then I'll finish reeling that in. hopefully this will be one more catfish. Oh, it jumped off. Having a decent percentage of or a few more catfish overnight. I mean, if you get 2 or 3, I think that's fine. But some nights I'm definitely getting more than that, which is obviously really nice. All right, let's see if we can't get something here right at the end. Now that we're anchored down, jig step was a lot easier. Still touching bottom, so we have a chance right here at the end to maybe catch something. And these catfish are just, I think a lot of people are targeting the catfish, and you can do it both with the spin fishing setups, kind of like what we're trying to figure out here, but you also can do it with feeders. And in fact, in my next video, I'm going to try to experiment with another spot. I think in my first video here, at least my first video of me fishing here, we did look at a what has been for me a really good spot for sturgeon, sterlet, and all that. But I want to try a different one as well. All right, so we're going to go ahead and stand up in the boat. And this is the match rod we're using. And we're using 9.8 fluorocarbon line. You notice this match rod, the length of it is 4.2 meters. In a boat, you don't really want to float fish with anything much longer than that. It just becomes really awkward to try to get the fish into the boat. So this spot would be even better perhaps, or at least really good to do with a bolo setup. But the length of my main bolo rod, that is the right strength for this spot at least, is just a little long. So it makes bringing the fish in a little more awkward. So I like using this match rod mostly because of the length of it. But again, you can just about do this anywhere in this river and catch something in terms of float fishing. Float fishing is just really good here from what we're seeing, from what we're learning. I am in this spot using a 14 hook with caddisfly. If you do have sandwich bait unlocked, it probably will work even better for you. There are a lot of bait choices. If you've gathered a lot of leeches, I have found that leeches work really good here, and I'll show you that real quick. Stonefly has caught some really nice fish for me here, but the bite rate is slower. Same with mayfly larva. So because I'm trying to level up float fishing, I'm going with caddisfly because I like the bite rate. And I'm catching a mixture of markers and non-markers, as you'll hopefully see here in the next few minutes. But there's just so many different bait options for this spot. And if you have sandwich bait, of course, you have even more bait options. Leech, kind of like some of the other ones, might not be quite as good a bite rate as the caddisfly, but I found that in general, leeches have been catching really nice fish. So I might try to gather some more leeches here and there, because it's been fun actually using them. I haven't often had good opportunities or good options to use leeches. So this is something small. The leeches had been avoiding the small stuff for me pretty well and catching mostly markers, but it looks like this one's going to be a really small one. So we'll release that guy, and let's switch back to caddisfly, because this is the main thing I want to show you. It is a pretty good bite rate here all day. So I think what we're kind of balancing here is a decent bite rate, but also the opportunity of catching some pretty nice fish. And that's kind of the way I enjoy doing float fishing the most. I mean, obviously there are spots where you can volume fish and just bring in loads of fish in a short amount of time and maybe level up a little faster. But for my sanity, I kind of enjoy float fishing in spots where I'm interested in what I might catch. And so this spot for me at least has sort of become that, this and other spots. What I was going to say before is In the last video I did where I was drifting in the mornings, actually we were drifting way down here on this side of the river, and it just really making good silver down there with the wacky rig drifting. As you're drifting down the river, if you do that, if you hit a spot where you're really catching these types of fish really nice, like nice size ones, that is a good opportunity for you, if you want to do some float fishing, to go ahead and anchor your boat there and use this same technique kind of over that water where you've seen the really good fish coming out. And I'll show you what depth we're at. I think we're still at 3.1 meters in terms of depth. So kind of getting somewhere around there should work good for you. That can vary, I guess, where you are on the river. But that's been a pretty good standard depth for me. There's some points in float fishing, and that's one of the main reasons why we're doing this. We're also catching some pretty cool new fish here, but one of the main reasons. And like I said, we're at 3.1 meters. I also had it at 1 meters and 1.2 meters. Still getting bites, so I'm not sure that it matters that much, but at this depth, kind of just felt like maybe the best bite rate. So we're still in the morning. We should be having especially good bites right now. You'll still get bites through the afternoon, but I have seen that sometimes it will slow down at least briefly, and then as you get into the late afternoon, early evening, it's really strong again. And so, yeah, this just ends up being a lot of fun. It's a pretty painless, at least for me, pretty painless way to kind of chip away at leveling up float fishing, which can take a long time. The higher you get, as you know, the slower it becomes. So not that far away from being able to activate happy hour for the day. So we'll either fish here or some other spot to try to get some more points in float fishing. But let's catch a couple more fish here. I'll throw out maybe stonefly larva a couple times, see if I can't get a bite on that, and see what kind of fish we get. But you see how fast the caddisfly larva is getting bites? It's really, without sandwich bait unlocked, it's probably, for me, it seems like about the best bet in terms of just consistent bites. And like we were doing with the bolo rod, once we have a solid bite, I'm just sort of pulling the pole down to the side and then just reeling in and letting that process itself hook the fish, which seems to work really well. So that caught a humpback on the stonefly larva. Let's try that one more time. And 14 hook has kind of been where I have landed in terms of trying to get, and this is what I've been seeing on the stonefly larva. Again, the bite rate will slow down sometimes, but when you do get fish on it, it tends to be pretty nice fish. This is going to be a little larger than what we've been catching. It's an Arctic, actually. Okay. Well, the Arctic char are everywhere, in fact. So that's kind of cool. And then mayfly larva has been about the same as stonefly in terms of inconsistent bite rate, but decent fish when you do catch something. Since it's still morning time, I think we will probably be able to get a bite here. Yeah. I think once it hits afternoon, like that early afternoon slowdown period, you definitely want to switch to whatever bait you feel like you're getting the highest bite rate on. Because the whole point here is how quickly can we make a little silver, catch some decent fish, but also just land fish to give us that chance for leveling up our float fishing. And this is more what I'm used to seeing sometimes with the mayfly and the stonefly, is where, especially this time of day, it is rare for the caddisfly to go all the way down without a bite or two. It's possible with some of these other baits. Here's stonefly again. You do catch a lot of these omouls here. I did use the roe. The roe worked good here. Not that I would really think it's a good idea to waste an actual gold bait when other things seem to work just as well. The diving beetles work here as well. So a lot of options. That's a really pretty omoul there. So over the course, hey, thanks for the follow, Pine Wolf. Over the course of you know, a day, if you sit here float fishing, you'll catch some small fish or whatever, but you're gonna see some pretty interesting fish and make some pretty decent silver. And you see I'm having trouble landing this one. Imagine if this, imagine if this pole was another meter longer. It just gets more and more complicated when you're stuck in a boat. I guess I also should check out the Eastern Bream here. I've yet to do that, and I know they've been pretty good for people. Relicade had several nights of catching some really impressive Eastern Bream. I think I've got the spot written down somewhere that they've been popping out on, so I've mostly just been focused on trying to target some of these new fish, as well as the sturgeon, sterlet, catfish, that kind of stuff. The other thing you can do, you see we don't have a fish on, but if you do put your wacky rigs back here, even just sitting here, kind of moving a little bit in the current, you would occasionally likely see a couple of catches there too, if you want to really go crazy with the wacky rigs in the back. And every fish is just a chance to slowly level up your float fishing. It's a pretty big sardine there. Go. once it gets down here, I usually just recast. I don't know how often, from what I've seen, you're going to get too many bites past the barrier. But we could try it. It may be that fish don't even spawn that far. I mean, I haven't seen just past the barrier. I've seen it sort of get on there, but at that point they probably had already spawned and then are staying with it. All right. So you get the idea. I've actually really enjoyed it. I think, I mean, I've fished here a lot at this point. Silver wise, it's usually 300 to 400 silver per day or so, and that mostly is going to be determined by how you do on these. The catfish are just such good silver that they add up really quickly, and so then when you throw the burbot and then a collection of these whitefish and such, you know, your silver intake goes up really well. And then always remember to check the cafe, because a lot of these fish that we're catching tend to have cafe orders that are popping up pretty frequently as well, which is another advantage to drifting. And we of course did this in the last video, but you hit so many cafe orders. I mean, well, if you drift for a while, chances are you're going to at least get 1 or 2 orders, and that actually, you know, contributes pretty well to your silver also. So I've really enjoyed this. Hopefully this has been helpful. Just another idea of a 24-hour session here at the New River. It's been fun for me, and it's been helpful to keep plugging away at that float skill. So thanks for watching. Sorry about the audio mistake from the last time, but I will see you soon. Peace out.